嗯，要开始了吗？
对对对。
开始了哈，OK。Okay, I want and my name is Sam, and I want to share this topic TD for Angular introduction. Okay, what is TDD? TDD is the test-driven development. Okay, and it is a development flow, and that we write the failed test code first. And then we write the production code to make our test pass. And the most important is that the Angular CLI and the Wallaby. And today I will use the Wallaby. Anyone know Wallaby? You know? Okay. I know Jeff know Wallaby. Like, Angular CLI and Wallaby provide sufficient tools to run the TDD in Angular. Okay, I will have a live demo. Okay, tools. And about tools and Protractor. Protractor, it is an end-to-end test framework. Okay, it is already integrated by Angular CLI. And the Jasmine is a JavaScript test framework. It's already integrated by Angular CLI. Comma is a Java test runner. It is already integrated by Angular CLI. So, and the only thing that not in Angular CLI is Wallaby. JS, and it is a live unit test tool. It's a pay. It's a pay. So you can use it and 1 month for free. So if you want to use, you have to pay for it. Okay, then about TD life cycle, and okay, so how to run the TDD? First, we have to write application test. Okay, application test. It is a fail application test. Fail. So it is red. And then we write integration test fail integration test. And then we write a fail unit test. Okay, the O3 process is a fail test. And then we write we write our production code to make our unit test pass. So we got a green light. Okay, and then we write our production code to make our integration test pass. And finally, we make our acceptance test pass. Okay, and at this moment, and the O test is passed. O test is passed. So what we can do is the refactoring. We can refactoring our code to make our code a better code and a better structure. So because we have write all testing code and we have passed all our testing, so we can now begin to do some refactoring. Okay, and next time when we have a new feature, we begin by the fail acceptance test and the fail integration test and a fail unit test. And this is the life cycle and workflow about the TDD process. Okay. I will do some small demonstration about how to write a code by TDD process. Okay, this is a very simple. Okay, I just do the demo. And I started ng start to start our Angular CLI servers. Angular start. And the server is starting. Sometimes it's very slow. Okay, and so the server started and can we test our okay. Okay, and this is the very simple for code. And at the beginning, the submit button is disabled. And if I click the agree button, it will make the submit button. Click the agree button again, the submit button is disabled again. So we will use NG model or two-way binding. Okay, but the most important is and how we implement this by test-driven development. Okay. 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 Return to our slide. Oh, acceptance test. Okay. Acceptance test. The most important is, okay, what is acceptance test? Okay, this is the definition about acceptance test. Acceptance test is to describe the user requirement. The user requirement is here, and he wanted one submit button and one checkbox, and the submit button is disabled by default, and when we click the agree, and the submit button is enabled. When you click again, the submit button is disabled. So acceptance test is to describe user requirement. And we want to simulate user actions on browser and to test HTML and CSS expectation on browsers. Okay, this is the definition of acceptance test. So, and according to the user requirement, we want to write our test case to describe the user requirement. Okay, this is the test case I think, and according to the user requirement. In practice, and if your company run a Scrum, Scrum process, okay, you can determine this test case in refinement meetings. Okay, so you can have this test case. Okay, and this is the test case I have for the acceptance test. First, an issue have a submit button. Okay, the second issue have a agree checkbox. So we have a button, a checkbox. Okay, issue have a submit button disable, and I agree checkbox unchecked when the page is loaded. Okay, the first time the submit button is disabled, the agree checkbox is unchecked. Okay, and then it should have a submit button enabled when I agree checkbox is checked. Okay, it should have a submit button disabled when I agree checkbox is unchecked. Okay, or the test case is to describe the user requirement. Okay, and then and how do we write the test code to describe this user action and how to test this action? Okay. Okay, and I check the initial state. And in Angular CLI, we know that we have the E2E directory. And this directory is the test for protractors. And we have to write the test here. Okay, and we have two files. One is the app E2E spec test.ts. And this is the protract test file right here. And this is this is the for page object. Okay, I will demo later. Okay, first, and okay, it's okay, too small, okay? Okay. Okay, and okay, I just deleted the default. in the test, and then we have the describe. The describe you think that is describe a scenario of your test. What about before each? Before each is the place that where you run, and when you have a many tests, the before each run every the before each is the place that you run the code here before each test. So before we run test, we want to the browser to navigate to the URL here. So we have to add navigate to here. Or before every test, we have to navigate to here. So and then we want to write test. How about our test? We have a test here. It should have a submit button. So because here you just copy here. Okay, you should have a submit button. Okay. And how to write code to describe describe this test case? It should have a submit button. So we write a Jasmine test. Okay, it should have a submit button. So we expect a page. Okay, page at the folder. And then this is the page object, and it will return the submit button instance. Okay, and then it will, and we will use the is present method to determine whether the submit button is present. Okay, so you should have a submit button, so its present should return true, and this should be true. Or expect the get object submit button submit object is present to be true. Okay, this is our first. Okay, the second test you should have an agree checkbox. Okay, so we just copy the. You should have a agree checkbox. Okay, as above, we expect a page the get I agree checkbox. Okay, as the same is present. True. Okay. In the third test case, it should have a submit button. You should have a submit button disabled, and the I agree checkbox is unchecked when the page is loaded. Okay, so I write expectation, expect the page get order, and disable. Okay, we know that then in the protractor that and there is enable method. So if it's disabled, so it should be to be false. And then we expect the checkbox unchecked. Okay, so get I agree. Checkbox is unchecked, and there is a method called is selected. So when the unchecked, so is to be. In that test case, you should have a submit button when I. Okay, just copy the description. Okay, it should have a submit button enable when when agree checkbox is clicked. And okay, in the above test we just use the expect, but the test is and when I agree checkbox is checked. So I have to simulate the user action, the click action here. Edge. Get I agree. Check box. Okay, it's checked. Okay, there's a method called click to click a checkbox. Okay, and when agree by is checked, we should have submitted enable. Okay, it's I agree. It's enable. Is enable, so it's enabled to be true. Okay, and the last test case is here. Each button disabled. When I agree checkbox is unchecked. How to simulate unchecked? Okay, we just if you click the checkbox twice and it's unchecked. So the page then get I agree checkbox. Click first time and click next twice. And if we click the checkbox twice and we expect the page get I agree checkbox is enabled to be false. Okay, so we just use our test code to describe this test case. Okay, and we found that you can find that the many page object method we haven't implemented. Okay, so the next is what is page object? What is page object? And okay, definition. This is the okay, this is the page object. What is the page object? Page object. Okay, definition is here. The page object describe HTML and CSS part. To make acceptance test decouple from HTML and CSS. And if designer change HTML and CSS in the future, we only have to modify our page object and acceptance test remain unchanged. Okay, and when we write test about the page, we know that designer often make change about the HTML and CSS. If you write our acceptance test or end-to-end test directly about the HTML and CSS, so and our protected test or end-to-end test may be changed a lot if the designer change HTML CSS. So we want to decouple from HTML and CSS, and we encapsulate HTML and CSS in the page object. So if the designer and change the HTML and CSS in the future, we only have to modify our page object part. We don't have to modify our acceptance test code. Okay, so here the other part we can see this is our page object for the acceptance test. Delete it here. Okay, so the web storm until that we haven't implemented these methods. Okay, we can use the page storm to implement the method for us. Okay, so we don't have to type the method, the web storm type it for us. Okay, we know that get order submit or get I agree checkbox is to return the element and for us this the page object part is for HTML and CSS. Okay, and in fact it returned a promise, but promise is a more complicated. We just turn it to ending. Okay, so we want to return element. Okay, And then we want to find the element about the order submit buttons. So we have to use the by dot. You can use the by CSS. Okay, you can use any selector, the CS selector techniques. Okay, the simple is the simple is used by ID. Okay, you can select the element by ID. So maybe we have an order submit ID. Okay, and the next we return element by ID. We can maybe with the I agree a checkbox. Okay, by ID. So okay, this all pass. Oh, this is the check by the language service. All pass. Okay, this is all pass, and except this is just a spell error. Okay, spelling error. So for short, we just use this all pass by the language service. Okay, so we have write our unit test. Okay, and then we know that we have to have a fail acceptance test first. So we run our test. And if you use Angular 0, you can just have NGE2E. And this is the web store integrated the projector, and said you can run in the IDE. Okay, but it has a 5 fail test because we haven't implemented any features. So we got a fail test. Okay, that's okay. And the next, we have the right integration test, fail integration test. And what is integration test? Okay, the right integration test. Integration test. The definition of integrate test is that integrate is to describe HTML binding and to test the data expectation in HTML. Okay, so this time in the acceptance test, we just think about the user actions and the user want to see the result. And the integration test is focused on HTML binding. We know that in Angular, we have HTML templates, and we use the directive and the data binding in HTML template. And the integrate test is focused on HTML binding. And we want to test the right data in the HTML. We want to test the data expectation in HTML. So I have the 2 test case for integration test. The first test case is that it should be, remember, then the integration test is focused on HTML binding. So it should be used and is submit enable property on disable attribute of submit. Remember that we now have a 2 element on HTML. One is the submit button, one is for checkbox. So in the integration test, we want to make sure that the submit button and the agree button has a proper HTML binding. So the first is describe that we have we want our submit button the disable attribute of the submit button to data binding to the isSubmit enable property, or to correctly data binding on this property. The second, we have a agree checkbox, and it should use ngModel directives. It should use ngModel directives, and the ngModel directives is a 2-way binding directive, and this directive should properly binding to isSubmit enable property. So this is the test case. I want the integrate text. So I want to write these 2 tests in Angular. In Angular, we write our integration test and unit test on this file. .spec.ts file, okay, without this file. So, and it provides a default tag for the component. So we just delete all the code here. Personally, I have a default a code snippet for integration test and unit test. Okay, this is the code snippet I have. And I just added the credit import here. Okay, and about this, it's hard to explain all the features here. But you can think that we have a test bed. Test bed, you can see that it is a module that it is created by Angular, and it's just for the testing. You use the test bed to create a component here. A component return a fixture. A fixture is something like is the testing component and the infrastructure. Okay, we can use the fixture component instance and to get a component instance. Okay, you can see that if you want to run the integration test, you have to use the component. You can use the fixture component instance to return a component instance. And if you want to write integration test, you have to use the component instance. Okay, and how about the fixture debug element? The debug is just for, you know, that when we have an HTML, there are many HTML element there. So fixture debug element, you can think that there's a collection of all the HTML element. So there's a debug element. Oh, then so about target, and we know that we have two kinds of tests. One is for integration test, and one is for unit test. When we want to write a integration test, you have to use the here component, because this instance is created by testbed. This is made by Angular. But how about when you want to write the unit test? Unit test is when unit test is not about the Angular. So we just use the plain new keyword to new the object, to new the class. So if you want to write a unit test, then you use a target. Okay, fixed detection change is that we know that, and the Angular has the I just forget the word. Okay. Change detection, yeah. When you write the protection code, and if you change the property of the class, the change detection automatically, and it will present on the HTML. But if you write the test, the change detection is disabled. So if you make any changes on the test, you have to write the feature detect change to make the change detection enable. Okay, so here, and then we just write our test. So we have two test cases. Okay. Okay. When we know that in Angular there's only one file, so we have to write our integration test and unit test in one file. So we recommend that you use to describe the integration part and integration test part and unit test part. So you have it describe. This is for integration test. Then this is the test case. So the test case that you should use enable property on disable attribute of submit buttons. Okay. But how to write this test? Okay. When we write test, this is a very important principle for writing the integration test. Okay. Make stub. You can make stub and test stub. Again, what is stub? You can say this is a dummy, or spy or fake. Okay, and it is you can say this is a fake object, the fake data. Okay, you can make a fake data and test the fake data. Okay, this is the principle when you write the integration test. Okay, so we should how to and we want to test that then the disable attribute is correctly data binding to its submit enable property. So according to this rule, so if we pretend we pretend the component is suitable enable to be true. So if we pretend the property to be true, so when we check the disabled property, the disabled attribute, if this is true, so we can make sure that the disabled attribute is correctly data binded to the is submit enable property. The code. And I've told that if we want to write the integration test, we have to use the component. Okay, the component is enable is submit enable or to be true. And remember, the change detection is disabled when we write testing. So if we change the property in the class, we have to manually add this texture changes and to enable the change detection to enable the change detection. Next, we want to check the disabled attribute. We want to check the disabled attribute whether when the is submit enable is true, whether when the enable is true. Okay, and the tricky part is that when we want to data binding the disabled property to some Boolean value. Okay, when the something is enabled, when the some element actually is enabled, we cannot see the disabled attribute, right? Right. But when the some extra element is disabled, we can see the disabled attribute. So if submit enable is submit enable is true, it means that we cannot see disabled attribute. Okay, so how do we write this? First, we have to get the element, actual element. Element. Use the debug element, the query. Okay, we use the by the CSS. Okay, so this we have to import this. Okay, by C selector. Okay, we have in the last we have the ID here. So this is for submit button. So we have order submit. Order submit. We want to get order submit. Okay. Remember, the debug element, the query return is the debug element, not the DOM element. So we have to use the native element to return the HTML element. So in fact, it is a DOM element. It's DOM element. So we have to expect HTML element. And when we want to get the DOM element attribute, we use this method, get attribute. We get what attribute we want to get disable. Disable 有没有的啊？有的哈 ，disabled. We want to get disabled. Okay. To be. As I said before, that when the disable is true, that we cannot see the disable attribute. So the disable attribute is null. This is the tricky part here. Okay, we haven't implemented that, so the here is okay. So next, we have to implement the next test case. It should use the ng model on submit property. Okay. Okay. And how to implement this? Okay, how to implement? Okay, we know that ng model is a two-way binding. Okay, two-way binding. The feature of for two-way binding about the interpolation binding is that when we change the property of the class, the HTML will change accordingly. But the two-way binding is reversed. When HTML changes, the property of the class change accordingly. Okay, so how do we test the ng model? How do we test the ng model? If we want to test ng model, we should do this. What we should do is to simulate the user action on HTML and test the property of a class changes as we expected. So in our test case, we want to simulate the user click the checkbox, check the box, and to test whether the ng model is react as we expected. So okay, you can see so the idea is when we click the checkbox, how to we actually do the following things. We make the check attribute. We make the check attribute of checkbox to true. Okay, this is the first. And the next, we got trigger the change event of checkbox. You know that we have to simulate the user action here. So we have to down here. In the first, we have to find element. We have to find the checkbox first. Element the query. Okay, by the vector and the submit the here. Native and the native element. Oh, okay, we find our checkbox first. Okay, then we want to set the check value to true. Okay, check the HTML element. But unfortunately, we can see the check on IntelliSense here. So what should I do here? We had to use type assertion to convert it to HTML input element. When we convert the HTML element to HTML input element, and we can see the check property here. We want the check. Okay, we just to simulate the user check the checkbox. And then we have one thing to do is that we have to trigger the event. We have triggered the event. How do we trigger the event? Our element dispatch the event. Dispatch what event? Dispatch the change event. Change event. And then we can write our expectation here. Expect the component that is submit enable to be, and if we checked, so if we make the checkbox checked, we expected that its enable property to be true. And if this test pass, we can make sure that the engine model is correctly binding to the is-submit enable property. Okay, then we run our test. We can select the Wallaby and run the test. Wallaby is a pay tool. I'll run test. So, and if the test pass, the old green line will be on the left. But now we haven't implemented any features about the HTML part and the class part. So now we get a failed integration test. We get the red here. Okay, and this is what we call the next pass. We are now here in the failed integration test pass. Okay, then we have to write a unit test, failed unit test pass, failed unit test pass, unit test. And how about the failed unit test? Here. The unit test is simple. The most difficult one is the integration test. Okay, and I prepared some questions here. So you can see we have write the acceptance test. We have write the integration test. You can see that the document element query in integration test is so similar to element in protractor. Protractor is acceptance test. Okay, but you can see they are same concept but different syntax between frameworks. Okay, the debug element query is provided by Angular test bed, and the element is provided by the protractor. Okay, and you can see that Python CS is capital. How Python CS is integrated test is so similar by the CS in protractor. All they are the same concept and the concept. We can use the NC selector here, but different syntax between the frameworks. Okay, and then you can say by the CS, or we call the predicate in the integration test. Okay, but the by the CS in protractor called locator. Okay, they are the same concept, but just use the different vocabulary between frameworks. Okay, and many people may ask me that why should we write integration test? Okay, since you can see that acceptance test is cover HTML part, and the acceptance looks very similar to integration test. Why should we write in the integration test? The answer is the acceptance test is very slow. Okay, we can see later. So why I say that acceptance is very slow, and but we can get live HTML test. You can get. But we can get a live integration test, not HTML test, live integration test result in seconds. Okay. And I will demo later. Okay, then we write our unit test. And the unit test, what is unit test means? I guess most people heard about the term unit test. Okay, but what is the definition of unit test? Unit test is to describe the feature of a class. And to test the protected expected result of the class. So unit test is for, so we can see that, and the integration test is for HTML part, and the unit test is for class part. Okay, so we have one test case here. You should have is submit enable property, and default value is false. Okay, so how do we implement? And then this is a unit test. So we have a new describe. Unit test, and we have a new test case. The test case is here. Okay, you should have an is submitted property and default value is false. The unit test is very simple. Okay. As I said before, that when you write integration test, you use the component. When you want to use the unit test, use the target. So we spell the target. Target is submit enable to be false. As can say is expected to false. So right here we also got a fail unit test. So we have a fail acceptance test, a fail integration test, and fail unit test. Okay. Now we want to go next. Next, we want to get our unit test pass. Unit test pass. And I have a two window here, and now we have to make our test pass first. Unit test pass first. Okay, then okay, this is our class. This is our class. Okay, our goal is to make our unit test pass. So it says we should have is submit enable property. So we give it is submit enable property. And we expect it to false. And we expect to false. Okay, we make our unit test pass green. We made our unit test pass green. Okay, and then we have to make our integration test pass. Okay, how about integration test is for HTML part? So we change our code editor to HTML part. All the default implementation. Okay, we know that in HTML we have two elements. One is for checkbox. It's one for button. Okay. The first test is for each used about submit button. The first test case is about submit button, and the submit button should have a disabled attribute, and its data binding to is submit enable. Okay, so we just write our HTML as a test case. Okay, we have a button, and then we have ID, right? The ID is an order submit. And say our test say that we have a disable attribute. We have a disable attribute. Remember when we have the property binding, we have the square. Okay, disable property. We're binding to what? Want to binding to not is enable. Okay, not is submit enable. We have a not here. Okay. 哎，拼错了吗？哦 ，disable 对，哦 disable。Okay, when we disable here, we expected. Okay, 这里哪里写错了 ？Okay, detect changes. Detect changes. Because these are typo. These are typo, and because we make our submit enable a stop. That these are fake. These are fake data, and we have to make our we should make our data to present by HTML binding. So we have to use a feature that detect changes. And you can see now if you add the is submit enable property binding to disable, we make our test passed. Our integration test pass. And the last part, okay, and this button, you can say this at the submit. And the last the test case that we want have a agree checkbox, and we want the entry model and the two-way binding to is submit enable property. Okay, so Okay, and we got input type a checkbox. Checkbox is the I agree. Want to make the two-way binding, and two-way binding, we have banana in a box, the banana in a box. ng model, okay, ng model, and we want it bind to the is submit enable. It's submit enable. Submit enable. Okay, and we have some warning here. Can bind to ng model. Okay, why? Because if we want to ng model, we have to do one thing is that we have to add the import. We have to import the force module manually. We have to import the force manually. Okay, add force module, and we have to import the force module here, and we have to import. We have to import the same. We have the module in the test bed. We can delete the browser module because and the test bed is already imported browser module, so we can just delete it. But force module we have to import it manually. We just import the force module, and after we import the force module, we can see that all integration test is passed. We get all green here. Okay. So we can get I here. Okay, we have to pass all our unit tests and integration test. How about acceptance test? Okay, we can run our acceptance test. And projector, we can write our projector again. You can see that acceptance test is much slower. It's much slower. Okay, it got some fail. I just check out why it failed. The last one. Okay. Last one is click twice. Reach a bus. Okay, not get a green chat box is get order submit. Okay, so run the test again. So you can see the accept test for acceptance test. We have the run our browser. Okay, we can get our file test pass. So you can see that the protractor acceptance test is much slower than integrated test. You should have to run the browser. You should run the browser, so it is much slower. But you can see about our integration test. For example, if we ng model, if we write ng model, maybe it was spell ng model, not ng model, ng mode. So we got a fail test here. So and the integration test is very fast. It immediately shows your test failure. So that's why we have to write integration test here. It helps us to check your HTML binding instant check the binding. But if you don't write integration test, your any HTML part error, you have to run your acceptance test. It's much slower. Okay, if you here and run the protractor, it still find the error, but it's much slower. 它会跑不下去，口会跑不下去的。So okay, it's much slower, and it's I think because it's some error here, so it can run the test successfully. Make all the tests fail. Stop it. Stop our test here. So that's why we have to write the integration test, because it's much faster. Okay, I will give some. Okay, the final step is refactoring. Huh? And when we pass all the tests, we have to write some. We will make our code some refactor. But in this moment, we don't have. So when talking about the refactoring, we always do some refactor about our class, but we only have one line of code here. So in this case, it's too simple to do some refactor. Okay. Let's make some conclusion here. By TDD, we can use the fail test, drive HTML data binding, and the class implementation. So you can see that, and we write our test code first, and let's fail. So we make to make our test pass, we add the implementation of a class. We add some implementation of a TML to make our test pass. And then when all tests pass, the test code and the production code have been implemented. Okay, and in the before, we write our production code first, and then we have to write test code. But here, I'll just demonstrate another way. We write test code, and then we write production code. And when all tests have passed, the test code and production code is all already. Okay, and when we have the test code, we write our test code. We can run our test again and again in the future. Okay, if you want to refactor our code, then we can. The one thing is that we ensure all the paths must pass. And then you can refactor your code. Okay, and you can make sure that if you add the new features, you can make sure that the new feature doesn't make the previous test code fail also. Okay, that's the share. This is my share. Do you have any question about this? And this is the method, and I want my team member to write Angular applications, and I want them to write the test first, and write test first, and I want them to have the acceptance test, integration test, unit test, and write the code. Okay, and this is the way I teach my team members to study Angular. Okay.要怎么停止啊 ？Stop share 这样就好了，是不是？对。这要怎么弄吗？按那个右边那个方块。这边还是这边？哦，这个哦 ，Stop。